Hi, Greg here again, and I wanted to do another short installment of my limited YouTube video series about consulting, things that I've learned, experience. Maybe some of my experience can help you if you're thinking about going and being a consultant. And today I want to talk about mistakes and opportunities in some ways, but primarily mistakes because I've made a few. And these may or may not be mistakes that you might make, but there are certainly things that I learned from it. I think it's okay to make mistakes, so long as you learn from them and you move on. Um, One of my first ones was just the thought that once I put out my virtual shingle, if I can talk this morning, everybody would just come, or a lot of people would just come. I just have business. It's like all of a sudden, it's like, oh wow, Greg Schaefer's doing this great thing. That's I don't know. Maybe it was a little egotistical of me, but it didn't really happen that way. It wasn't like potential clients came knocking on my door. Um, Potential clients do now to an extent, but that's because of a lot of work over the last few years in marketing and building your platform, which involves like social media and also getting yourself out there, going to conferences, those sorts of things. But in the beginning, and not so much. So, what's the next thing that you try to do when you want to try to get clients? I think for me, it was to try to do cold calling. And I started that. I started with banking because I just come off being security for banking. And that was my sweet spot at the time. And I was a member of the Tennessee Bankers Association, which they provide a nice contact guide, if you will, a listing of all the major players in Tennessee in the bank space. So I started to pick out folks on there that I think might be interested in hearing my pitch, which I never really refined, and that didn't go too well. And perhaps I could have done better, maybe if I had created a script, but I just found that cold calling wasn't for me. Now, maybe it does work okay in the cyber world. I don't know if it can work that well in the virtual CISO portion of that, because typically an organization doesn't really understand what a virtual CISO is until they actually need it. So if you're calling someone and they don't have the realization that they need that sort of help, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. It's just another sales call in the whole um, background noise of sales calls, and it's treated appropriately. So, but I also didn't have a business plan, and I might have mentioned some of this before, but I never really thought to create a business plan. Now, as time went on, I created strategic plans for the business, meaning this is where I feel that we're going to go as an organization, created kind of core philosophies. Like we have a couple of core philosophies for vCISO services. One is we only will play in the second line of defense space, the risk management space. I'll leave it to you if you want to look up what second line means as far as the three lines of defense model. The second is I want to make a difference. And so I don't want to work with an organization that is just interested in compliance. If they're just looking to become compliant to pass a SOC 2, but they're not really interested in growing their security program, there are plenty of great organizations out there that will help, but that's not us. So that's sort of like a niche for us. And you can call that a business plan in a way, or at least a strategic boundaries, maybe. But I think that you should definitely understand what you're providing and why you're providing and stick within that, your core competencies. Don't try to do too much. Um, I I did try at one point in time to stretch with a couple of other services, and I realized that's not the right way to do it. Sometimes, particularly when you're starting out, you're very much tempted to take any and every client that comes along because you want to build the business, but sometimes that's not the right way to go. You have to balance between the need of building a client base and staying true to your core competencies and your core mission. Another mistake I had was underestimating taxes. I knew that there would be more from the personal side because you don't have an employer paying taxes nor Social Security or anything like that. You as a self-employed person pay all of that. You also have to pay for other things that an employer normally would. You would have to pay for your insurance, for example, health insurance and all of that. I didn't I didn't discount these, but I probably should have figured it out a little bit better as far as the numbers go, because I wasn't terribly happy when I realized just how much of my income was actually not mine, when things started. I've gotten used to it. It's okay. It's cost of doing business. But in the beginning, it was a little bit of a shock to me because I didn't do a good enough job of researching. I'll be quite honest. I also didn't really do a good enough job of researching other taxes and expenses. So, like in Tennessee, an annual report have to file, franchise and excise taxes, sales tax if you're going to resell. So there's a lot of things that you need to understand there, and also if some of the issues involved with, I'll probably talk about this a little bit more in a different series about how you're going to staff. So whether they be 1099s, which are contractors, or employees, and employees have a whole host of other issues associated with it. That'll be for another episode. And I think the final mistake that really surprised me is that I really didn't like working from home. Which the reason why that really surprised me is because that was one of the big draws with all this. This is, way before COVID, and working from home was not nearly as um, prevalent as it is today. Uh, it's a lot more in place now. I thought I would really enjoy it, but within 6 months, I was starting to go stir crazy in a way. I needed to be around people, and my path was I decided eventually to do a couple of days a week at a co-working facility, and then that became all the time at the co-working facility with a small office, and then eventually a larger office. Same co-working facility that I'm in right now. That one of our staff, an employee of ours, is actually working in this facility as well. But this is my office here, so it's a larger office and works as a SOC. I got computers behind me. So, but I love coming in every day. I don't work from I hardly ever work from home because I just love being around people. So that was it was a learning experience for me. It very much surprised me. Now, there have been a couple of good things and opportunities I want to talk about. Wait. One more mistake. I almost forgot. How can I forget this? GoDaddy. Now, GoDaddy is a great service to start with small business, but there are a couple of things, particularly from the cyber side, that caught me off guard. The first is not so much the website. There are limitations with what you can do with their building for the website, and to that point, we're in the middle of a project now of redoing the website and getting away from GoDaddy. But it's a good place to start. I won't discount that at all. But if you're really into like managing your Microsoft tenant, um, doing Office 365, it's very difficult to do through GoDaddy because they kind of jump in the middle of there. They do that to make it easy for small businesses. But if you're in technology, or if you're in and like you're a techno geek like me, it became very frustrating. And if I could go back, I probably would do that a little bit different. In fact, we did flip a little bit. Now we are using directly through Microsoft, our tenant, for our main duties and all of that. Now, a couple of good things. Stuff like this. The video that I'm doing right now, the Virtual CISO Moment podcast, which started as a YouTube video series, the Virtual CISO Minute, ways of marketing to get around and to get through that trying to get clients thing, because marketing can be very hard. I've become a lot more at ease in front of the camera and talking with other folks and all of that. And plus, it's the Virtual CISO Moment has given me a venue to help others, not only small and mid-sized businesses with information, but also to promote other security pros, careers and brands, their own businesses, and and by doing so too, hopefully help others on their cybersecurity path by hearing the stories of those who have maybe gone further ahead from where others are right now. So I love that. Um, I love the fact that I took my writing, which I do like to do, writing on the side. That's a whole different subject I won't get into right now, but created this book, Information Security for Small and Mid-Sized Businesses. You can find it on Amazon. I'm working on the next edition. That's what these little notes in here are. Wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for the business. And then, of course, probably the most important one is the satisfaction, as I mentioned before, of helping folks, helping small and mid-sized businesses, helping people earn a living, just having my staff. When I first started, I didn't really think about having multiple folks working with me in the organization, but it's a blessing to be able to provide that, to help that for others. So anyway, I didn't want to make this too long. That's one of the goals of these little short videos, is to be short. So I hope that this is helpful. If so, I'd love to hear from you. If you've got any um, advice that you think that you might help small, or rather cybersecurity consultants stepping out on their own, I'd love to hear that as well too. But thank you for listening. As always, take care.